Today's guest is one of our Triathlon Nutrition Academy athletes, Brent Saltmarsh. Brent has recently retired from 30 years of service in the Army, and he's now throwing himself headfirst into endurance sport. His 2025 race calendar is heavily stacked, from half marathons and trail runs to Sunny Coast 70.3, whoop, 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 Noosa Olympic distance, and he's going to cap it all off with his A race at Busselton Ironman later in December. When Brent first joined the Triathlon Nutrition Academy program, his goal was, I think, pretty simple and powerful. He wanted just no-nonsense education and to finally get his training, body and fueling working together for himself, not against each other. And like many athletes, and particularly coming from an Army background, his just push harder and burn the candle at both ends type mentality has definitely backfired on him. He'd train hard, back that up with like terrible nutrition, and things like cramping and inconsistent performance were holding him back. And he knew, honestly, that something had to change. So we are now halfway through his TNA program together, and he's already seeing such huge shifts in how he feels and how he performs. Today, Brent is here to share some of those mistakes that he was making, some of the silliest online advice that he thought was gospel, so that you don't get caught out by that either, and some of the wins and successes that he's already had along the way. So let's do it. Welcome to the Triathlon Nutrition Academy podcast, the secret weapon in your ears for triathletes who want to get fitter, faster, stronger, and healthier with evidence-based nutrition. Brent, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
I'm so excited to talk about all things silly and the things that you thought were good that weren't good today. Like, there's some definite ringers in there that I would love for you to share. Before we dive into that though, for listeners that don't know who you are, can you give us a quick version about who you are and how you got into triathlon?
Yeah, sure, Taryn. Okay, so 49-year-old, couple of kids.
Likes long walks on the beach.
Roller skating in the park. The two older boys, so obviously I've had a lot of time management issues leading up to beginning triathlon in general, but effectively I'm just at a point now where I can start to focus a little bit more on a sport that I can endure without the injuries that the other sports came with. And I guess as a swimming background and dabbling in athletics, cycling was like a foreign language to me. So getting into triathlon was more a late sport that I really started because I enjoyed the endurance side of it, and that was probably more of a defense background thing. And it pushed the limits. So things I like to do is just push those boundaries, and that's exactly why I started triathlon. The biggest issue, I guess, with all of that is it is an expensive little sport, which I've learned, but it's also probably the most rewarding in terms of the effort that you get and pouring all of that effort into that time and energy into training, which is something I love doing. I love the training, and the events themselves just become that cap. Yeah, I love it.
How many years have you been doing the sport for now?
I was just working this out the other day. So 2019 was my first actual triathlon, which was a smaller sprint event on the Gold Coast called the Luke Harrop.
The Enticer or the sprint?
But no, I did the big one, and then the swim got cancelled. So it was the only thing I enjoyed about triathlon was the part that got canned because of the water quality. But so then I didn't know what I was doing. Numbers are on backwards, upside down. I did the whole thing wrong and learned a lot. But of course, I was hooked. Straight after it was just a big euphoria that I can't replicate anywhere else. And I've done a lot of other sports, but that one's just what took me.
It is a very addictive sport for that reason, because you do cross the finish line, and no matter how hard you pushed and all the turmoil that you've had to get to that finish line, you cross it and, the endorphins rush and everyone's giving you high fives and you're like, oh my God, this is so good. I want to do it again. Next. Sign up to the next one.
Well, it's pretty much what it was. It was a group I was training with, like at one of the fitness studios around here, and they just said, hey, you want to do this? I said, sure, why not? And that was pretty much how it started. And every time I get asked, I generally say yes to it, which is not exactly the smartest move, but it's also how I get, once you commit to something, it's tend to be what you'll aim towards and start cracking on with all the little things you got to do for it.
And because you've retired from the Army, you are pretty much pro hours at the moment, which is a luxury that a lot of us would love. And you can focus on triathlon for a little while. And it's one of the reasons why you're actually working on your nutrition now too. What were some of the silliest things you were doing before, or some of those big mistakes you were making before joining TNA that you look back now and go, oh my God?
I used to be of the mindset where I could out-train a bad diet. Like that's exactly how I could eat anything I want, especially as a young guy. So I never had any issues with, I guess, pouring myself into training and or longer events. So the biggest kicker was working out that that's not true. Not only was it not true, it was starting to have a huge effect on things like recovery for me as I got as an older athlete, and all that holistic approach to doing things right. I just didn't have that. And whilst I loved doing the running and the swimming and the riding, clearly there was a big gap in my ability to perform. And I just was taking hits in every direction based on the way that I was coming out at the end of an event, be it the back of a ride or the back of a run, especially in the longer stuff. And the cramping was the big kickers. Like I just wasn't having a good time at the back end of an event when I really enjoyed running, but I just couldn't put it together. And misconceptions were for me with some of the online stuff that this works, that works, and in reality is that I was not the same athlete as any of the people that I was looking at whilst I thought I was, and realising very quickly that certain foods don't agree with me. But it took me to 3 or 4 longer events to work that out, and more so from the education from the course, I guess, is what's actually told me that I had to change that methodology and crack on with what I should be doing, not what I thought was right. But it sort of was kicking my backside pretty hard in reality on the day. And I just could not get my head around why that was happening and, hydration or whatever it may be. But certainly learnt my lesson a couple of times.
It's really hard because you don't know what you don't know, and you get advice from people that have been doing the sport for a lot longer than you or perform better than you, and you think, well, they do that, so that's going to work for me. Or, they're experienced, so therefore I should then try this. And it's really difficult because you need to find what works for you. And there's a lot of noisy voices out there, and people maybe with sicker abs or have been doing the sport for 30 years that have spent a lot of time working out what works for them. And then unfortunately, those voices can be the most noisiest when they're trying to give advice to you as a newbie.
Oh, I agree. One of the biggest moments, I guess, was I think I had a caffeine, like a squeezy, like I won't say what brand. All I'll say is I'll never eat it again. But here's me thinking that's going to get me to the back end of was that point a half marathon or a marathon, and I was cramping badly already. Of course, I'm already underdone and undercooked, and put that in my mouth with about 6K out. Oh my God, it was the worst tasting thing. And I just had that in my mind, said I've got to fix this because that's not work. Clearly, that's not working. And of course, I was given the advice that would be a great thing to do at the back end of your race when you really need it. I needed everything but that at that point in time. And I learned that pretty hard. Yeah, unwell, stomach didn't like it, the gut cramps, all that sort of stuff.
Was there a turning point, and that maybe that moment was it, but was there another moment before that you realised that nutrition really was the fourth leg and it was something that you needed to work on and prioritise in your triathlon career?
Absolutely. So having entered just about every event that I wanted to at that point from about 2019 through to the back end of 2021, I did a full marathon and cramped from about the 26 kilometre mark out. So
that's a long day.
And not drinking like I should, and all the things that I'd done the days before, clearly leading up to that point. The running was done, but the training was done, but none of I was not eating anything on a run. I was not drinking on a run. I would just drink at the back end and start of each of those events. And then, of course, trying to take that mentality, thinking it was just a salt thing or whatever it may be, and then taking that mentality into a half Ironman, lessons learned harder than hard. I was worse at the start of the run, thinking I was going to handle this, and then became a complete mess. And then, of course, the penultimate was the full Ironman up in Cairns, where I basically was cramping from 100K on the bike all the way from that point onwards. I was coming up the hills, and
oh my goodness,
just the pain. It was just horrendous. And of course, my stomach wasn't taking anything in, and it was probably the big bell moment for me that just said, I'm clearly not doing this well, and I'm not doing it right. And I've taken all the advice, and none of it's working. It's not my style, and I've tried everything. That's how you learn the hard way. Certainly an expensive way to learn, but it's how I learned.
It is a testament to the type of athlete that you are, though, that you can be cramping at 100 Ks in on the bike of an Ironman and keep going. Just put yourself in the red, knowing that you're underfueled, dehydrated, in a hurt hole, and you're like, I'm going to get to the finish line.
I think I've said this to you before, Taryn, what an expensive mistake to make. And you put all that effort into getting to the day, and it was like a huge, start point. And then things I wouldn't normally have an issue with, all of a sudden my whole body's shutting down, and I am learning every kilometre as to how I'm going to deal with this, what my heart's got to do to not cramp. Like, I would have put everything that was out there. Anything that was on course that day was in me at some point, me trying to get through this next 42 kilometres. It was horrendous. It was literally the most horrendous thing. And I just remember thinking, I can't do this and not do this. I haven't come this far to only get this far. And I just said, if I have to walk this, I'll do it. But it was not an enjoyable back end.
I'm getting that medal and I'm getting that towel. I paid for it.
It was all about the towel and the medal. No, not at all. I just wanted to say I'd done it. The satisfaction of coming into the red carpet, I think that was probably where the money was, where I'd realised how much I'd enjoyed what I was doing that day. When at the back end, all of a sudden the cramp goes away and it's like, okay, this is it. Family, the music, the whole shebang, like that was worth it.
So many athletes would quit in that situation.
There was guys that did, and I've had people that have actually had pulled out in my own event, in my own teams, which at that point I can understand because they were well beyond, like they just couldn't hold anything down. And I think if I'd have been that bad, if I was throwing up, I don't think I would have, I don't know how anyone could cramp. I felt like I could just suck that up and walk it off. Like worst case, I could walk it. And after I just got out of the Portaloo from the back end of the ride, I really didn't think I was going to get through this. And then maybe there was a moment there halfway through, I said, maybe I'm not going to do this. I don't know. Everything overtakes you, the atmosphere, et cetera. And every time you pass that finish line, it sort of bowls you up again and off you go. But
amazing experience. I'm so excited to see what you can do when you don't suffer with any of that stuff, because you can put yourself in the red line and stay there for a long time, and you can race through cramping for hours. Imagine if you didn't have that happen. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that is probably the biggest boring thing about the whole year so far is I've had now some decent couple of runs, the Sunny Coast Half and the Noosa Marathon, which for the first time ever, not cramped, had myself prepped and ready, and all of a sudden I've got 2 PBs under my belt, and that's something that clearly has been the biggest pathway forward. Like the triathlon will be the back end of the year, but I'm more excited as every time that comes out, because the fact that I can rely on what I've done to this point to get there, but also because the results are starting to come. And that is a huge part to clearly what I'm doing before I turn up on the day. And that's the main one.
Yep. It is so much about everything in the lead up rather than just this one thing on race day.
Yeah.
So you're about halfway through the program. You're in the middle of our phase 2. What are some of those big aha moments that you've had so far?
Personally, clearly working on the I can eat anything I want leading up to an event fallacy, I was putting whatever I want into my head, and then what I've worked out is my stomach issues have been as a result of that. I always get stomach complaints midway through a run, particularly in the longer runs, and like we get taught here, I was always planning my routes around toilet stops because I knew I had to, because it was just what was happening to me. And then I realised quickly, very early on, that it was probably the fibre that was taking me apart, and the distress that would give me midway through a race, particularly in a triathlon where you just don't want to have to stop for anything, let alone a toilet break. And I guess that was the big test, and I think so far so good. But if that is what changes my enjoyment out there on the day, because I don't have to worry about that as much, I'm looking forward to just doing an event where I'm not uncomfortable because I'm either need to go to the toilet because my stomach's all turned up and churned up. I couldn't even sit on the drops because of how bad it would get sometimes. And that's just the ride alone before you get into the run. I'm really looking forward to just breaking that cycle and being free of that and not feeling bloated and not feeling ordinary at the back end, when I really need to be just energized and enjoying the event more, which is what I'm sort of gaining for, That's the enjoyment part.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just so excited because doors to the Triathlon Nutrition Academy are officially open. And this is your final chance to join us in 2025. Inside, I'm going to show you exactly how to fuel the fourth leg so you can train harder, recover faster, and smash your goals on race day. But don't muck around. Doors close on the 4th of October, and we dive straight in the deep end with our first masterclass on recovery nutrition. So head to dietitianapproved.com/academy, hit that big orange button at the top, and I'll see you on the inside. Where did that come from? Where did your pre-race lead-in advice come from for it to be so off kilter? Or are you just making this up as you go along?
There'd be a bit of that. There'd be a bit of making it up and what's worked in other things, I think. Like I was always a cereal guy or a toast guy. Not to say that either of those two things are bad, but that's what I would just focus on, but very little of it. But in the days before, I'd be putting whatever, like it'd be curries or a large meal that would sit very heavy in me, but also me thinking that would be enough to get me through because I'm going to be burning it off the next day. So why would I be worried about what I'm putting in today? And all of that, those types of foods, I think is probably trial and error more so, but I'd never really, poured myself into a decently long event that would give me the opportunity to trial that out, noting, that we would never have the opportunity to eat like that prior to an event, which I would never have seen the results of what that would feel like. It was always very light on. So, of course, the opposite of that was not eating, and that obviously wasn't working or wouldn't work because of the nature of the game. Trying to be so smart about it wasn't working either, so there was no math to it. It's embarrassing when I think about it.
It's okay. You don't know what you don't know. You're trying to do your best, and that's all that you can hope for. But without that education and backing behind you, then you really just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks and not really having any idea what to do to fix it.
And I think that was the lessons that I've clearly picked up, in fact, have embedded in as a result of the education so far. But yeah, the biggest hit was the fibre intake. That's clearly not working for me. You learn those things on the hard way, and I guess that's the big turning point for me.
We can do it easier and faster, though. You just have to actually get some help.
Yeah, and I've thoroughly enjoyed that help.
And how are you going with your cramping? Like, that is one of your biggest issues. Have you noticed a change in that since shifting your approach to nutrition?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two things to this. Obviously, there's weight loss coming through, so all those things that have happened just from the training perspective. But the biggest kicker has been that I am not hitting that peak or hitting that problem area as early, I guess, into an event to a point where I didn't cramp at all for either the marathon or the half, or in fact the two halves I've run this year and the marathon, zero cramping whatsoever. So had a bit of a tightness in the calf, and that's a given based on what I was doing, but no cramping at all. And I've never felt like that. I've never felt like I had the energy at the back end. I've never felt like the legs were about to, like those horrible cramps you get inside your thighs from just that overuse and abuse. And I just didn't have any of that. And it is such a refreshing thing to finish a race or finish a run or an event where you've got that ability to actually pick up a bit of pace. Whereas before, if that was happening, just a slight incline would give me a cramp in a calf and all of a sudden I'd be set. It'd be just biting me in the legs. All the way through to the event. And I used to panic about it too. It used to be really overwhelming knowing it was coming. I just didn't know when.
And also not pushing yourself more because you know that it's coming too. So now that you're getting your fueling sorted and your hydration and all the things, like, how has your confidence changed to be able to actually push yourself in training, push yourself a little bit more in events as you head towards Sunny Coast 70.3 and Busso Ironman later this year?
It's through the roof. I guess I've never really been able to race an event. It's been just hang on. I guess that's the easiest way to describe what I've been doing for so long. The ability to get out and have an event and know and be confident that it's not coming, that crash is not coming. It's now just down to my fitness level and my nutrition build, as opposed to just fitness, which is what I used to rely on, like to muscle it out in essence. That's clearly not worked for me. And now that I've got, I guess, this knowledge and confidence in what I've done to this point, and it's working, I now can race an event where I can pour the effort into the bike because I know I can do that without blowing up. And I know that I'm hopefully, when I get off the bike, I'm going to also be able to handle 99.9% of that run at the pace that I want to run at, not just because it's where I'm at and I can, I'm just holding on with either cramping every 3 or 4 seconds or worse, that you just don't have the energy to finish it off. I'd love to be able to do that, and I'm looking forward to those little moments. That boy, when you turn a corner and get another drink and you go, yep, I'm feeling great, this is good, the timings are on, heart rate's fine. I have nothing holding me back here except, what's between my ears, and that's in essence where I'm at now, which is what's really good to be there here now, that feeling now, as opposed to later on when I'm going to test it out.
And you will go from strength to strength too, right? So you'll do Busso and you'll learn heaps, and then what's the game plan after Busso? Have you got your eyes set on things like Kona? Where do you want to take this triathlon career of yours?
To be honest, I feel like Kona's like so out of reach, not because I haven't got the ability to put the work in. I just think maybe it's not yet there for me, but I guess it's more of a timing thing now. So if I can get under 11 hours this year, that would be huge. And then start to peg away at the magic 10 mark, which I don't know if that's within me, but either way, every time I go out, I would like to think that I can bring it down a little bit more or improve on something else where I'm prepped to, step off the bike in a better state and be able to run a marathon close or to or thereabouts to somewhere near my PB. That'd be great. Like those are the little things now, the fine tuning, I guess, that comes with doing everything right in the lead up to it, not just trying to cuff it on the day, which clearly I was putting too much effort on the day.
It is like so much about the whole preparation, right? For an Ironman, it's 6 months. It's not what you like quickly try and shove in the last couple of weeks. It is really a long-term thing to get training right and nutrition right to have a good day out in the office on the day.
Yeah, to bank it. I think that's the way I look at it too. Yes, I've got time at the moment, but it's also now when I go back to real life or potentially working in between things, I'll know that the time I've got is specific. And in that time, I can't stuff around with the things that shouldn't be let go. And nutrition for me is huge. So that'll be a big, big part of the gaps, I guess, between now and another event or an event and another event.
So it sounds like this is a long and prosperous career.
Yeah, I hope so. Like I'm addicted to it. It's my thing. I'd like to be like, that guy that came out of Cairns, 82-year-old or 90-year-old. He was 90. And I think, right, if he's doing it at 90, why not? Why not? Injury pending, fingers crossed. I'd love to be able to be doing something at that age. I just think that'd be sensational, if nothing more, for my own benefit to keep me healthy and strong for as long as I can. And this sport has the ability to do that, there's no doubt. But also getting things right at a 50-year-old. The fear is that I would not do that right with, heart disease and all the other things that come into, because our family's got that in it. But it's just something, I guess, that I've got to keep to the right and do all this right and allow myself the longest possible triathlon attempts and as often as much as I can. That'd be great. I certainly can't see myself getting sick of it, that's for sure. I love what I'm doing at the moment. It's good.
So you did Cairns in 2022. What time did you do that one in?
13 hours-ish, a bit over 13 hours.
And then Cairns Ironman in 2026 to come back like it's the retribution race. Oh, have we not told the wife yet? Sorry.
It's all right. The noise isn't there. There's unfinished business there, no question. And that event in particular is a cracking event to go to, which is why I would love to go there in full flight, I guess is the best way to describe it. Like all the prep was done and I have my nutrition tight. And then I rock up and just do what otherwise has been, you've banked it all, it's ready to go. And I just love to step out and do that because it's such a great place to do it well. Yeah, it is a great spot. And it would annoy me to get that far and not enjoy it like I think that I can. Like I've seen other mates go up and have a great day out. And yeah, the wind's bad, but the actual event itself is fantastic.
I feel like there's at least a 2-hour PB in that with just getting all your ducks in a row and not cramping from the bike onwards.
See, that's exciting to me. I think and if you're not, I'm not saying not trying, but having that ability just to pour it on, I think that'd be so good and so satisfying.
I'm so excited for you to do that.
Yeah, little things like that. It just seems to me like you can make big improvements on the small stuff, and absolutely the fourth leg, the nutrition side of it, for me is by far and wide the most underutilised, and now it's becoming my most focused on because of that. For obvious reasons, because it matters. It absolutely matters to me.
So what would you tell another triathlete who is like you, though, trains hard, great athlete, good mindset, but has got no plan for their nutrition, or they're just winging it and they have no sense of if this is actually working for them or not, or probably that it's not working, but not sure how to actually fix it?
I think the biggest one is clearly you've done things that have got you so far, and that's great, and it is what it is. It'll take you right up to a point. But if you are starting to commit more to, focusing on how you want to perform, not just turning up and going through the motions, which in itself is fine, of course, you can only go so far with that, but then what's holding me back from getting better and better? Well, for me, nutrition has been it, like without a doubt. The changes in my mentality towards it, the changes in how I look at things daily, how I listen to information that's coming through, like that is all change for me, and it's an education process, and it's becoming more and more of a default setting for me. And that has become, for me, a healthy change in lifestyle, not just about the sport, but it turned my sport around without a doubt. And the little things matter now. And the feeling of not feeling tired and bonked at the end of a ride or end of a run, it's just a huge change. Sleep's better. The backing up the next day, the day after is better. And I just think that in itself speaks for itself. And if you can do that, then that's exactly where you'll get the results. You'll see the results if you're banking it in that area.
Especially if you want to be doing this sport in your 90s. You got to put in the work somewhere. The earlier you start, the better.
It'd be very interesting to see what the older athletes are doing in respect to that.
Yeah, I think that age group is definitely going to expand as we, like in the next 50 years, there'll be people in the 100+ category, I think, stuff that just doesn't exist as we eat better and live longer.
Yeah, putting all the crap out, and I say crap, it's just the differences of what we've grown up with is not necessarily true in itself. And I guess the more education that we get on that, the better we become at it. And then you start to modify your behaviours. I think that's the biggest change as a 50-year-old and nearly a 50-year-old, trying to get that part of it right. It just seems to work better when you're educated on what's actually happening around you.
And it does need to be changing habits and behaviour change for it to be longevity too. It's not just a quick fix type thing.
Yeah, 100%. Behavioural is a huge thing.
So if you could go back and give pre-TNA Brent some advice, like one piece of advice, what would it be?
I guess be open to the fact that there are people that do this for a living. I was not of the opinion that there was as much out there, because there's so much information, there's so much stuff online, and I think having someone if you're really into what food and a fuel can do for you, this has certainly been the biggest change in my moving going forward. And fibre is not the magic wand that I thought it was for preps for big events, and I used to think that was how it was, and I guess that was just a growing up thing. And if I could learn lessons, I would have had such a better day out. That's the big ones for me. It was to fix it now or forever not enjoy this, and I just didn't want to keep doing that.
I'm glad you're here now.
Absolutely. Been good. Really, really good.
Well, Brent, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast and sharing where you're at so far. Like, I know it's daunting to come and share mistakes that you've made and like just an example of the things that you're working towards. As triathletes, I feel like we are perfectionists, and to be really open about your progress and your journey, I think is really valuable. And a lot of people are going to hear that and go, okay, I can do this too. I think your story is also a really good reminder that training hard is needed, but it isn't always the answer to fix the problem. And when you do get your fueling right, everything works better. Like, and you just said that, like from avoiding cramps as a major thing, but, backing up training and feeling more energized, feeling more healthier and sleeping better, as well as the whole cascade of effects that probably happened in the family life too, as a result of working on nutrition, not only for triathlon, but also just day to day. So if you're listening along and you're listening to Brent and you can relate to a lot of the things that he's been struggling with, like you've got your training program sorted, but you know that your nutrition is probably the thing that's letting you down, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to do something about it, just like Brent has done, and get that piece of the puzzle sorted once and for all. And that is exactly what we do inside the Triathlon Nutrition Academy program. And you can find all the details at dietitianapproved.com/academy. Brent, I'm so excited to see how the rest of your 2025 pans out, but I think that is just a drop in the ocean as to what you will achieve in your triathlon career. You're only just getting warmed up, really.
I've just left it too long to get to this point. That was the problem.
Never too late. The best time might have been 25 years ago, but the second best time is now. Yeah,
that's true. That's a very good point.
If anybody wants to follow along on your journey, is there somewhere they can do that, Brent?
So, yep, if you want to follow, then Brent_T_Salty. That's where I'll put everything that I'm about to do and undertake for at least the next 12 months, but that you'll see all the pictures and updates as I go forward.
On Insta. I'll put that in the description if you're trying to search for Brent. Give him a follow. He's a legend. All right. Thank you so much, Brent. I will look forward to seeing the tracker and yelling at the tracker at Busso Ironman later this year. And thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you next week.
Bye.